The ocean had been quiet for days. The waves moved in a slow, almost gentle rhythm, and the horizon shimmered under the pale light of the rising sun. Captain Alara Voss stood at the edge of her small exploration vessel, eyes scanning the endless blue. She had sailed these waters for years, chasing rumors and signs of the old world. Some called her brave, some called her foolish. But Alara believed there were things in the ocean that humanity had forgotten, things that needed to be found before they were lost forever. It was early morning when the first signal came. The crew was still shaking off sleep when the ship's sensors picked up a strange reading far below the surface. At first, it looked like a shadow, a dark shape moving beneath the waves, but as the sonar cleared, it became obvious that this was no ordinary object. It was enormous, larger than any ship Alara had seen or read about in history books. "Captain," said Rion, the ship's chief engineer, his voice full of disbelief, "you need to see this. Whatever it is, it's not natural." Alara turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. She could feel a strange vibration in the water, a low hum that seemed to echo through the hull. Her heart beat faster. She had seen many things in her life: sunken cities, giant underwater formations, and strange creatures, but this was different. "Bring us closer," she said calmly, though her mind raced with curiosity and caution. "But stay at a safe distance. We don't know what it is." The crew moved quickly, adjusting the vessel's course. As they approached, the object slowly revealed itself. It was a ship, but unlike any human ship Alara had ever seen. Its hull was smooth, almost organic, and it seemed to glow faintly with soft blue light. Strange markings ran along its sides, like symbols, but they did not resemble any language known to humans. The ship was enormous, stretching longer than a kilometer, yet it had no sails, no visible engines. It looked like it had been sleeping for centuries. And now, somehow, it was awake. Rion leaned over the console, frowning. "It shouldn't be here. This ship, it isn't in any records. It's older than anything we know. It's impossible." Alara didn't answer. She was too busy watching, her mind filled with questions. Who had built this ship? How had it survived underwater for so long without decaying? And why had it decided to surface now, after so many years? The vessel's sensors picked up a faint energy signature. It pulsed in slow, rhythmic beats, almost like a heartbeat. The hum grew stronger, vibrating through the water and into their ship. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Something about this ship felt alive. Not just a machine or a relic of the past, but a being with its own will. "Prepare the boarding team," Alara finally said. "We are going in. But stay alert. We don't know what we are dealing with." The crew obeyed, and soon a small shuttle was lowered into the water. It moved with precise grace, guided by Alara and Rion, toward the glowing ship. As they drew closer, the strange hum intensified, and the water seemed to shimmer with energy. It was as if the ocean itself was warning them, telling them to turn back. But Alara refused. She had spent her life searching for lost knowledge, and she would not be stopped by fear. When they reached the hull, they were amazed by its scale and beauty. The surface was smooth, but it seemed alive, with patterns that shifted and changed as if the ship were breathing. Alara reached out to touch it, and a sudden wave of warmth ran through her body. She felt an unexplainable connection, as if the ship recognized her, or perhaps tested her. "This is incredible," whispered Rion. "It's like nothing humanity has ever built. It's perfect. Alive. Somehow." Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the hull for an entrance. Slowly, a section of the surface began to open, sliding aside silently and revealing a passage. The crew stared in awe. It was a doorway, and beyond it, faint lights illuminated corridors that twisted and turned in impossible ways. "Looks like it wants us inside," said Alara softly. As they entered, the hum of the ship grew louder, more complex. The corridors were wide and smooth, with walls that seemed to pulse faintly. Strange markings covered the surfaces, glowing softly. It was not just a ship, it was a world, a place designed with care and purpose, and it had been waiting for someone to come. The crew moved cautiously, their steps echoing in the vast halls. Every corner revealed new wonders. Rooms filled with floating orbs of light, chambers where water moved as if alive, and strange instruments that seemed to record information without human intervention. It was a museum, a laboratory, and a sanctuary, all in one. This ship, it's trying to tell us something, said Alara. Something important. Hours passed as they explored, and slowly, a pattern began to emerge. The markings on the walls were not random, they were a language, ancient and complex. Alara and Rion worked together, deciphering fragments. The ship had been created by humans, long before current civilization. Its purpose was to survive a catastrophe, a plan to preserve knowledge, life, and wisdom for future generations. But the ship's power was more than mechanical. It was intelligent. It reacted to their presence, opening passages and activating systems when they approached. It was alive in a way that no human or machine should be, and it seemed to be judging them, testing them silently. As the crew ventured deeper, they reached the central chamber. It was vast, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch endlessly, and walls that glowed with shifting patterns. In the center, a platform rose from the floor, and upon it, a device pulsed with light. It was like a heart, and every beat sent waves of energy through the ship. Alara stepped forward, feeling a strange sense of awe. She could feel the intelligence of the ship, ancient and vast, as if it were aware of her thoughts. "Captain," Rion said, his voice trembling slightly, "I think this is the control center. Whatever this ship is, it's alive, and it wants us to understand it." Alara nodded. She reached out to the glowing device. The moment her fingers touched it, a vision filled her mind. She saw cities rising and falling, oceans covering lands, humans exploring the stars. She saw the ship being built, designed to survive the end of one era and the beginning of another. She saw the hopes and fears of generations long gone. Tears filled her eyes. The weight of history pressed on her, but it also inspired her. This was humanity at its greatest, brave, clever, and determined to survive. And now, this ship had returned, offering knowledge, guidance, and a chance to rise again. But the vision shifted. The ship tested her, showing scenarios of failure. Humans fighting over the knowledge, making selfish choices, wasting opportunities. It was a warning. The ship would only fully awaken if it believed that humanity was ready, worthy of the gift it carried. Alara understood. The journey had just begun. The ship had surfaced for a reason, and the ocean had delivered it to her. What lay ahead would test everything humanity knew about courage, wisdom, and unity. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the water in shades of gold and crimson, Alara and her crew prepared for the challenges ahead. The ship had awakened, and now, so had their mission. They would explore its depths, uncover its secrets, and prove that humanity could rise to meet the future, even from the bottom of the ocean. For the first time in centuries, the ocean felt alive with possibility. And at its heart, a ship waited, patient and powerful, ready to reveal the wonders of a forgotten world. Alara looked at her crew, their faces full of awe and determination. She smiled, feeling a sense of pride and purpose. They were not just explorers, they were the first to witness a miracle, a gift from the past to guide humanity forward. The ocean had returned a ship that should never have surfaced, and humanity would never be the same again. The morning after the ship had surfaced, the ocean was calm, almost as if it had been holding its breath. Alara stood on the deck of her exploration vessel, looking at the massive ship that floated like a shadow above the waves. Its glow was softer now, almost welcoming. Yet there was a sense of patience in its presence, as though it were waiting for something important. Alara turned to her crew. "We begin today," she said. "We need to understand what this ship is, and why it has returned to the surface. But remember, we move carefully. We don't know what tests or challenges may be inside. The boarding team prepared the shuttle again. They had spent the previous night reviewing the ship's sensors and mapping what little they could detect. Every reading indicated that the ship was far beyond human technology. Yet there was a sense of order, as if its design followed logic that humans could understand if they were patient. As they approached the ship, the water shimmered beneath them. The glow from the hull seemed to pulse in time with their shuttle's engine, and the hum that had vibrated through the ocean yesterday returned. Softer but unmistakable. The shuttle docked with ease, almost as if the ship had moved to welcome them. Ilara stepped inside, feeling a mixture of awe and responsibility. The corridors stretched before them, still glowing with shifting patterns. The air, though not breathable in the human sense, was filtered for their suits, and every step they took echoed softly in the vast hallways. Rion paused, looking at a wall of markings that twisted and shifted. "Captain, these symbols, they aren't just decoration. They're a language, a record of knowledge, history, maybe even warnings. I've never seen anything like this." Ilara nodded. "We need to understand it. Every symbol, every pattern, could be important. Keep scanning, and note everything we find." They moved deeper into the ship, and soon they came to a chamber that seemed almost alive. Water moved within it. Not like liquid, but like a medium carrying energy. Light floated above, forming shapes that reminded Ilara of constellations she had studied in her youth. It was mesmerizing, and for a moment, the crew forgot their caution, lost in the beauty of the place. "This ship isn't just a vessel," said Ilara softly. "It's a library, a record of what humanity once was and what it could become." As they explored, the ship reacted to their presence in subtle ways. Doors opened before they reached them. Platforms rose and fell, guiding them toward certain areas. It became clear that the ship was aware of them, not as intruders, but as guests, or perhaps as students. They reached what appeared to be a control chamber. It was enormous, with a platform in the center that glowed with a pale blue light. Around it were devices and instruments that seemed to record data continuously, though there was no sign of human operation. The hum of energy was stronger here, almost like a heartbeat, and the crew felt a strange warmth as they approached. Rion leaned over one of the devices, scanning the readouts. "Captain, this energy, it's not just power, it's information. The ship is storing knowledge in a way we can't fully understand yet. It's alive, but it communicates through data, through energy itself." Ilara stepped closer to the platform. The glowing surface pulsed beneath her hand as she reached out. Images flooded her mind. She saw ancient cities rising from the earth, oceans covering lands, humans building and exploring, and eventually, a catastrophe that had forced humanity to change, to adapt, and to survive. The vision was overwhelming, but it left her with a sense of purpose. "This ship," she whispered, "it's not just a record. It's a guide. It wants us to learn, to prepare, to carry humanity forward." They spent hours moving through different chambers. Some rooms were laboratories, filled with equipment that could analyze water, air, and biological matter. Others were archives, containing holographic records of human history, both known and forgotten. The more they explored, the more they understood that this ship had been designed to preserve knowledge through time, even if the world above water had changed completely. At one point, they entered a room that seemed empty at first. But as they stepped in, panels on the walls lit up, displaying projections of human achievements. They saw the first attempts at space travel, the development of energy systems, and the creation of advanced communication networks. The ship was teaching them, showing them what humanity had once accomplished, and reminding them of their potential. "This is incredible," said Rion, his voice full of awe. "We are walking through the memory of our own species. But it's more than memory, it's a blueprint for the future." Ilara nodded. "And it's testing us too. Every room, every vision. It's asking if we are ready. Ready to take this knowledge, and use it wisely. They moved to another chamber, larger than anything they had seen. The floor was transparent, showing layers of glowing energy flowing beneath it. In the center was a large console, with symbols that seemed to rearrange themselves when touched. Ilara reached out, and the console responded, showing images of different paths humanity could take. One path showed humans working together, creating cities on water, exploring space, and restoring the environment. Another path showed conflict, division, and waste of resources. The ship was asking them to choose, to demonstrate understanding of what it meant to be responsible and thoughtful. "This isn't a simple machine," said Rion. "It's alive in every sense. It observes, learns, and reacts. It's asking us to show our worth." Ilara realized that this was more than exploration. It was a test of humanity itself. The ship had been waiting for someone who could understand its purpose, someone who could see beyond fear and selfishness. As they continued, the ship guided them to a chamber filled with water that glowed with soft light. Strange creatures swam within it, their forms delicate but perfectly adapted to their environment. Ilara watched, fascinated. Each creature seemed to represent an idea, a principle of balance, survival, and cooperation. The ship was teaching them through examples, showing how life could flourish if handled with care. Hours passed. The crew was exhausted, but their curiosity pushed them forward. Every chamber revealed new wonders, new challenges, and new questions. They realized that the ship was not only a record of the past but a test for the future. In the central chamber, the heart of the ship pulsed steadily. Ilara approached it, feeling a deep connection. The vision returned. Stronger this time. She saw humans from centuries ago designing the ship, planning for a time when the world might forget them. They had thought of everything: survival, knowledge, ethics, and the future. Ilara understood that the ship had chosen them because it sensed something in humanity that could rise again. It had surfaced not by accident but because the time was right, and because someone like her was ready to receive its message. But the vision also showed danger not of the ship, but of humanity itself. Selfishness, greed, and fear could prevent them from learning. The ship would only share its full wisdom if it believed humans were capable of using it responsibly. "We have work to do," Ilara said to her crew. "This ship is more than a discovery. It's a responsibility. We must understand it, learn from it, and prepare ourselves. Only then can we carry forward what it holds." The crew nodded, their faces determined. They had seen wonders beyond imagination, and they had felt the weight of history. But they had also seen the potential of humanity, the courage, and the creativity that could rise to meet even the greatest challenge. As they prepared to rest, the ship pulsed softly around them, almost like a heartbeat. Ilara felt a sense of calm and purpose. The first step had been taken, but the journey was only beginning. The ocean had returned a ship that should never have surfaced, and it had chosen them to uncover its secrets. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the water in shades of gold and deep blue. The ocean seemed alive, responding to the ship's presence, and perhaps to humanity's courage as well. Ilara looked at her crew and smiled. They were not just explorers, they were students, guardians, and witnesses to a gift from the past. The night passed quietly, but the hum of the ship continued, a reminder that it was alive, patient, and watching. And as Ilara drifted to sleep, she dreamed of the future, a future where humanity could rise again, guided by the knowledge and wisdom that had been preserved beneath the waves for centuries. When morning came, the crew would return to their exploration, diving deeper into the chambers, uncovering more of the ship's secrets, and facing tests that would challenge their minds, hearts, and spirits. The journey was long, and the lessons were many, but they had already taken the first steps, and the ocean, vast and endless, watched silently, holding the ship and its secrets, ready to reveal more to those who were ready to learn. The ship had become more than a discovery. It was a teacher, a guide, and a test. Ilara and her crew woke to a soft glow filling the corridors, pulsing in rhythm with a quiet, steady hum. It was as if the ship itself was alive and aware that a new day had begun. Every moment they spent inside, they felt the ship's presence more strongly, and the sense of being observed was both unsettling and comforting. Elara stood at the edge of the central chamber, gazing at the glowing platform. The energy beneath it pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, and she could feel it vibrating in her own body. She placed a hand on the platform, letting its warmth flow through her. A vision unfolded, more vivid than any she had seen before. She saw humans in great cities under the waves, expanding into new worlds, exploring the stars, and solving problems that once seemed impossible. She saw humans cooperating, creating inventions, and protecting life on Earth. And then, she saw failure, humans arguing, fighting, and making choices that destroyed progress. The vision was not just history. It was a lesson, and it asked her to reflect on what humanity was capable of. For good or ill, the ship's hum deepened, almost as if it were asking her to respond. Elara turned to her crew. "It's testing us," she said quietly. "Not just our intelligence, but our courage, our unity, and our values. We must show it that humanity is ready." The crew nodded. Each of them felt the weight of the moment. They were no longer just explorers. They were representatives of humanity, chosen to prove that their species could rise to the challenges ahead. The first test appeared suddenly. A doorway opened, revealing a vast chamber filled with shifting patterns of light. The floor and walls moved subtly, forming pathways that seemed impossible to navigate. At first, the crew hesitated. Some areas appeared to drop into darkness, and the light shifted constantly, making it difficult to determine a safe path. Elara stepped forward confidently. "We take it slowly," she said. "We observe, think, and act together. That is how humans succeed." The crew followed her lead. They studied the patterns, noting that some lights responded to their movements. By working together, adjusting their steps, and communicating constantly, they managed to move through the chamber without falling into the dark voids. It was a simple lesson in observation and cooperation, yet it tested their patience, focus, and trust in one another. At the center of the chamber, a projection appeared. It showed a human settlement struggling with a natural disaster. Buildings were flooding, and people were trapped. The crew could interact with the simulation, moving objects and altering pathways to guide the people to safety. "This is more than a puzzle," said Rion. "It's teaching us empathy, decision-making, and responsibility." Elara nodded. "It wants us to think about consequences. Every action matters, and we have to make choices carefully." Hours passed as they worked through the simulation, learning to anticipate problems, balance risks, and act with foresight. They realized that the ship was not merely providing knowledge. It was shaping their minds, encouraging them to see beyond themselves, to think like humanity at its best. Once the simulation ended, the chamber shifted again, revealing another room. This one was darker, and the air felt heavier. Though there was no danger, the walls displayed images of humans traveling through space, building colonies on distant planets, and creating new forms of life. But there were also warning scenarios where exploration failed due to carelessness, lack of preparation, or greed. Elara studied the projections carefully. It is asking us to understand the balance of progress and caution. To succeed, we must be brave, but also wise. Boldness without care can destroy even the best intentions. The crew moved through the chamber, guided by the ship's subtle energy. Each member encountered challenges tailored to their abilities. Rion was presented with a complex puzzle of energy flows that required precise timing and coordination. Mira, the ship's biologist, faced simulations of ecosystems collapsing and had to determine how to restore balance. Elara encountered visions of leadership, where she had to make choices that affected the lives of many, teaching her the value of fairness, courage, and strategic thinking. It became clear that the ship was testing more than skill. It was observing character, evaluating how humans work together, and determining if they could rise to the responsibilities of knowledge. By evening, The crew gathered in the central chamber again. They were tired, yet invigorated. The ship's energy pulsed around them like a heartbeat, and Alara felt a deep connection with it. "We have passed the first stages," she said. "We have shown that we can think together, act wisely, and care for others. But I feel there is more to come." The ship is not satisfied yet. As if in response, the platform in the center rose higher, and a doorway opened that led to the deepest part of the vessel. Beyond it, the corridors were wider, glowing with a brighter light, and the hum of energy was steady and strong. The crew stepped inside carefully. They could feel the weight of history and the potential of the future pressing around them. Each step brought visions of human achievements, arts, science, exploration, and compassion. Yet there were shadows too. Mistakes, selfish acts, and failures that reminded them of the stakes. The next test was the most challenging yet. A chamber appeared filled with complex mechanical structures that moved with a life of their own. The crew had to navigate carefully. But the challenge was not just physical. They were required to anticipate consequences, plan several steps ahead, and cooperate in ways they had never experienced before. Alara led the crew, observing the structure's patterns, noting how each movement affected the rest. They communicated constantly, suggesting strategies and correcting mistakes together. Slowly, step by step, they moved through the chamber, overcoming the intricate challenges. At the end, a projection appeared. A vision of a city in chaos, where humans had neglected knowledge and failed to act responsibly. It collapsed under natural forces, showing how failure to cooperate, plan, and care could undo generations of achievement. "This is the lesson," Alara said quietly. The ship's hum seemed to deepen in acknowledgement, and a new pathway opened. This one was simpler, but it carried a sense of solemnity, as though the ship were showing them that the ultimate test would be of their spirit, their courage, and their commitment to humanity. As they entered, the crew encountered a chamber filled with light and water interwoven, creating illusions of vast oceans and skies. Here, they were presented with moral dilemmas, scenarios where every choice had consequences, and where selfishness or fear could result in loss, while courage and wisdom led to growth and harmony. Alara faced a vision of a team stranded in a hostile environment, with limited resources. She had to decide how to allocate help, whether to risk herself to save others, and how to guide her team without causing harm. Each choice tested her leadership, empathy, and judgment. Rion faced a vision of technology that could either harm or heal. He had to choose which inventions to prioritize, how to balance progress with safety, and how to act responsibly with the knowledge he possessed. Mira encountered ecological dilemmas, deciding how to preserve life while allowing growth, teaching her the importance of balance and foresight. Hours turned into a day, and yet no one complained. The challenges were hard, but the lessons were vital. The ship was molding them, shaping them into humans who could inherit its wisdom and guide humanity to a better future. Finally, the central chamber called them once more. The glowing platform pulsed steadily, almost like a heartbeat, and images appeared around them. They saw humans rising to greatness, cooperating across generations, and achieving wonders beyond imagination. And then, the ship showed them what awaited if humans failed division, neglect, and the loss of knowledge. Alara understood fully. The ship had returned to the surface not merely as a relic, but as a teacher and a guide. It had chosen them because it sensed the potential for greatness in humanity. It was not enough to explore. They had to learn, act responsibly, and inspire others to do the same. "We have come far," she said to her crew. "We have passed the first tests, faced challenges of mind and spirit, and shown courage and unity. But the ship still watches us. It will continue to test our resolve. We must be ready for whatever comes next." The crew gathered around her. Each of them changed in ways they could not fully explain. They had faced visions of the past and future, learned lessons beyond any classroom or history book, and felt the presence of a force far greater than themselves. Outside, The ocean reflected the glow of the ship. It was calm, yet alive, as if it too were aware of the tests being completed within. Alara felt a sense of responsibility heavier than any she had known. They were not just exploring. They were preparing humanity for a future it might otherwise fail to achieve. The ship had returned a gift, but it demanded understanding, wisdom, and courage. The lessons were hard, the tests challenging, yet the promise was immense. Humanity could rise, guided by knowledge from the past and hope for the future, but only if they proved themselves worthy. As the crew rested that night, Alara remained in the central chamber, her hand on the glowing platform. She felt the ship's energy pulsing beneath her palm, a steady rhythm that spoke of patience, intelligence, and life. She closed her eyes and thought of the challenges ahead, knowing that the true tests were yet to come. But she also knew that humans had the strength, courage, and creativity to meet them. The ship's hum echoed softly through the corridors, a reminder that it was alive, watching, and teaching. Humanity had been called to rise, to prove itself, and to embrace the potential that had always existed. And as Alara drifted into a careful, watchful sleep, she dreamed of the future. A future where humans could inherit knowledge, wisdom, and the chance to shape the world for the better. The journey was far from over, but the path was clear. The ship had returned to guide them, and humanity was ready to learn. The glow of the ship filled the ocean horizon as morning light touched the waves. The vast vessel seemed calmer now, as if it had been waiting for the crew to prove themselves. Captain Alara Voss stood on the deck of their shuttle, feeling the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. The ship had shown them lessons of courage, wisdom, and cooperation, and now it was time for the final stage. "This is it," Alara said softly, turning to her crew. "Everything we have learned, every challenge we have faced, it has led us here. The ship is ready to reveal its full purpose, and we must be ready to accept it." Rion and Mira nodded, their expressions a mixture of awe and determination. They had come far, faced visions that tested their minds and spirits, and grown in ways they could not yet fully understand. They were no longer just explorers. They were witnesses to the knowledge and wisdom of a lost humanity, and chosen to carry it forward. As they entered the central chamber, the ship pulsed gently around them, like a living being greeting its visitors. The glowing platform in the center rose slowly, and the hum of energy became steady, almost like a heartbeat. Alara felt the rhythm resonate through her body, filling her with a strange sense of calm and purpose. The ship projected an image before them, a vision of Earth as it had once been. Vast lands filled with forests, cities, and oceans, teeming with life. Then the image shifted, showing the struggles of humanity. Wars, environmental disasters, and divisions that had threatened to undo centuries of progress. But there was hope too. They saw humans learning, cooperating, and overcoming challenges together. "This is the gift," Alara whispered. "The ship is showing us what has been lost, what can be rebuilt, and what we are capable of achieving." A doorway opened at the far end of the chamber, leading to a vast room filled with light and water interwoven in delicate patterns. It was a place of beauty beyond words, where the ocean and sky seemed to merge. The crew stepped inside, and the ship responded to their presence, illuminating paths and symbols in soft, guiding light. The ship's intelligence spoke not with words, but through visions and feelings that filled their minds. It showed them advanced technologies, ways to restore the oceans, repair ecosystems, and create floating cities that could adapt to the changing world. It showed them methods to explore space, travel between planets, and establish colonies that would ensure humanity's survival for generations. Rion stepped forward, his voice trembling with awe. This is beyond anything we imagined. It's knowledge, wisdom, and technology combined. We could rebuild the world and reach for the stars." Alara nodded, but she felt the weight of the responsibility as clearly as the excitement. "Yes, but the ship is not giving this to us lightly. It is entrusting humanity's future to those who understand its lessons. We must act with courage, wisdom, and compassion, or all this will be wasted. The ship's energy pulsed around them, guiding them to a central console. Symbols appeared, showing the choices humanity could make. Paths of cooperation, creativity, and exploration. Or paths of neglect, fear, and selfishness. Ilara reached out, feeling a connection stronger than anything she had known. It was as if the ship were reading her intentions, testing her commitment. She saw visions of her crew and all of humanity facing challenges that would require courage and ingenuity. The ship was not only revealing knowledge, it was preparing them to use it responsibly. Every innovation, every discovery, came with consequences. And they had to understand that to succeed, the ship then presented a final test not of skill, but of spirit. A vision unfolded, showing a future where humans had everything they could ever imagine, yet lacked wisdom and unity. The cities were beautiful, but people were disconnected, selfish, and afraid. Then the image shifted, showing humans working together, exploring the stars, restoring Earth, and caring for one another. The difference was clear. Knowledge alone was not enough. Humanity had to choose how to use it. Ilara understood instantly. This is the ultimate lesson. It's not just about what we can do, but what we must do. We have to act with care, courage, and compassion. Not just curiosity or ambition. The crew spent hours interacting with the ship, exploring its chambers, learning from its simulations, and discussing the visions it presented. Each decision they made, each insight they gained, shaped the ship's response. Slowly, they felt it opening more fully, its energy expanding and connecting with them in ways that were impossible to describe. By evening, the final test was complete. The ship pulsed in acknowledgement, its light brighter than ever before. The corridors shimmered with energy, and the central chamber radiated warmth and knowledge. Ilara felt a deep sense of peace. They had been tested, and the ship had recognized their courage, wisdom, and unity. Humanity had proven itself worthy of the gift. A final projection appeared, showing Earth transformed. Oceans were clean, forests thrived, and cities balanced with nature. Humans explored space with responsibility, shared knowledge freely, and cared for one another. It was a vision of the future they could create if they acted wisely. Ilara turned to her crew. This is what we have been given. It is not just technology or knowledge, it is a chance to shape the future, to rebuild, to explore, and to inspire. The ship has entrusted this to us because it believes in humanity's potential. Rion and Mira nodded, their eyes wide with awe and determination. We have a responsibility, Rion said. Not just to ourselves, but to everyone who will come after us. Ilara smiled. Yes. And it begins with us. We carry this knowledge, and we will share it with the world. But we must do so carefully, wisely, and with courage. The ship pulsed once more, almost like a final heartbeat. And then the central platform expanded, projecting a map of other hidden vessels. They had not been the only ship designed to preserve knowledge. The ocean, and perhaps the universe, held more secrets, waiting for humans brave enough to uncover them. This is incredible, Mira whispered. There is more out there, waiting for us to find it. Ilara nodded. And we will. But we start here, with the world we know. We have been given the tools, the lessons, and the vision. Now it is our task to act. The crew spent the next days cataloging the ship's knowledge, recording its technologies, and planning how to share it safely with humanity. They discussed ways to restore ecosystems, improve energy systems, and create floating cities that could survive climate changes. They designed plans for exploration, scientific study, and education. Every idea was guided by the lessons the ship had taught them: cooperation, responsibility, and foresight. As they worked, Ilara often returned to the central platform, feeling the pulse of the ship beneath her hands. She could sense its intelligence, its patience, and its hope. It had waited centuries for humans ready to inherit its wisdom, and now it was awake, guiding them toward a future of possibility. Outside, the ocean reflected the glow of the ship, calm and endless. The waves seemed to carry a sense of life and purpose, as if the world itself had recognized the awakening of humanity's potential. Alara felt a deep connection with the water, the sky, and the ship, knowing that they were part of something greater than themselves. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alara gathered her crew. "We have learned the lessons," she said. "We have been tested and found worthy. The ship has returned to show us what is possible, and now it is up to us to shape the future. We must act with courage, wisdom, and care. And we must inspire others to do the same." Rian smiled. "It's a lot of responsibility." "Yes," Alara agreed. "But it's also a gift. We have the chance to guide humanity, to rebuild, and to explore beyond what anyone thought possible. We cannot waste it." The next morning, the crew prepared to leave the ship and return to their floating city. They had recorded every detail they could, studied the ship's technologies, and internalized its lessons. The vessel itself seemed to acknowledge their readiness, its glow steady and warm, as if it were sending them forth with blessing and trust. As they departed, the ship slowly sank beneath the waves once more. Not retreating, but resting, patient, and alive. The ocean had returned a ship that should never have surfaced, and it had given humanity a chance to rise again. The gift was not just knowledge, it was guidance, a vision of the future, and a test that humanity had passed. Alara stood at the helm of their shuttle, looking back at the ocean. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "We have been given a gift, and now we must ensure it is used wisely. Humanity has the chance to rise again, to learn from the past, and to create a future that honors the courage and wisdom of those who came before us." Rian and Mira nodded. The crew felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just explorers, they were guardians of knowledge, carriers of hope, and witnesses to the potential of humanity. As the sun rose over the horizon, painting the waves in gold and blue, the ocean seemed alive with possibility. The ship had returned, had shared its wisdom, and had entrusted humanity with a chance to rise. And somewhere beneath the calm waters, the vessel waited patiently for the next chapter, ready to guide those brave enough to continue the journey. Alara smiled, feeling hope and determination. Humanity had been tested, humanity had learned, and now humanity would rise. The ocean, the ship, and the stars all seemed to whisper a single truth. The future belonged to those willing to act with courage, wisdom, and care. And so, with the gift of knowledge, the lessons of the past, and the promise of the future, Alara and her crew set forth, ready to shape a world that could finally live up to the greatness the ship had believed humanity could achieve. The ocean had returned a ship that should never have surfaced, and in doing so, it had returned hope, vision, and the possibility of a brighter tomorrow.